So in this video we're going to talk about transforming equations. So to transform means to rearrange. So think about playing with a transformer. What did you do? You rearranged it, you moved its arms, its legs, its head. Maybe it went from a car to a person, then a person back to a car. So we can do the same thing with an equation. So when you transform an equation, you're going to think about rearranging the variables and the numbers to set it equal to something other than what you started with. It's called a literal equation. Equations have a general format that they always are seen in, but then you have these literal equations where you want to solve it for something else. So we're going to look at a few and talk about how to transform them. And it works just like any other equation where you're told to solve for something, and you're going to rearrange things by adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing until you get to the variable that you've been told to solve for. So let's look at this equation. A equals 1/2 b times h. Hopefully you recognize this equation as the formula for the area of a triangle. So typically this equation is solved for a, but in this problem we're asking to solve it for h. So what do I want to do? I need to get rid of my 1/2 and I need to get rid of my b until I can write it as h equals something. So the first thing I want to do, keep in mind your steps for solving equations, is get rid of the fractions. So to get rid of this fraction, I need to multiply everything by 2. So when I multiply this side by 2, this will cancel out, and now I have this 2. So I'm going to rewrite this as 2a equals bh. But I'm not done because I'm solving for h. So what's next? Get rid of this b. Well, remember, two variables beside each other are multiplied. So to get rid of that b, I'm going to divide. Okay, so that crosses those out. So now I have h by itself, and everything else is over here. So when I solve for h, I find out that h equals 2a over b. Okay, so I transformed our area of a triangle equation into something where I solved for h, or the height. Alright, so now let's solve this one. This is the equation for perimeter. Perimeter equals 2 times length plus width. But we want to solve it for w. We're going to solve it for the width. Okay, I'm going to rewrite it down here just so that I have a little more space. Okay, so the first thing in this one that I'm going to do, I'm going to get rid of my 2 on the outside because the other 2 happen to be in parentheses. So if I divide this side by 2, I now have p over 2 equals L plus W. And I just kind of dropped my parentheses. Now, I'm trying to get W alone, so what do I want to do? I want to subtract L. I'm going to subtract L. So this one is going to end up being P minus L over 2 equal to W. And the L is not divided by 2, but the P is. So that's why I kind of wrote it out there. Alright, so let's look at something else. Well, this is an easy one. C equals 2 pi r. Circumference, hopefully something you know. We want to solve for r. So again, I'm going to rewrite it down here. We've got to get everything away from r. Everything is multiplied. To undo multiplication, you simply divide. So, I'm going to divide everything by 2. Those will cancel. Now I'm going to come back and divide everything by pi. Those will cancel. And I'm left with r. So in this case, r will equal c over 2 pi. So if I'm solving for my radius, and I have circumference, I can divide my circumference by 2 pi and learn what my radius is. Okay, so those first 3 examples, we're dealing with equations that you've probably seen and know. They're all geometric equations. So now let's look at some mathematical equations. All 3 of these deal with equations of lines, and they're things that as we move along in your mathematical career, you're going to see a lot. So first, let's look at this one. This is in y equals, this is what we call y equals mx plus b format. This is actually the equation of a line. And most of the time, you're going to see stuff like this, and we're going to ask you to put it into this. But today, I've got it in this way. I want you to solve it for x. So, you want to go backwards until x is alone. So the first thing we're going to do is get rid of this plus 7. So you know, to get rid of that, I subtract 7 from both sides. So I get y minus 7. It still equals 5x. So now from here, I have to divide by 5. So when we get done, we learn that this becomes y minus 7 over 5 equals x. Okay, so now these two, we want to solve for y. And when we do this, you typically are being asked to put it into this format I set up here, y equals mx plus b. And I know you don't yet know what m or b equal, but you will. So I just want you to be familiar with this format. So we're solving for y, so what do I need to do? In this one, I need to get rid of 3, negative 5x. That's it. I want to move everything over here with the 9. So my first step is going to be to move this. Even though I have two variables, it's the y that I want to keep here. So I'm going to add 5x to both sides. So now I have 3y equals 9 plus 5x. Now, I still have something with the y. It's multiplied, so I'm going to divide. So now I have y equals 9 plus 5x over 3. Now I'm going to make this a little bit prettier. I know that 9 can be divided by 3. 5 cannot, but 9 can. So I'm going to rewrite this again as y equals 3 plus 5/3 x. And this still doesn't quite look like this. And if you put this on a quiz right now, I would give you it. But since in about a month I'm going to be looking for this, I'm going to go ahead and give you the heads up. Rearrange it. Because you want your x term first. But again, I wouldn't mark this wrong. Alright, one more. Solving this also for y. So, minus 4x this time, so that you get 2y equals 8 minus 4x. Divide everything by 2. And this time, we can truly divide everything by 2. So this becomes 4 minus 2x. Now again, I like the x term first, so if we're going to rearrange it, negative 2x plus 4. Now, if I just blew anyone's mind when I did that, it's okay. You will understand it more in the future. But I do want you to get used to this. And that's how you transform an equation.